The math is mathin' for Austin Hedges.
How about
Stephen Vogt going to join us this morning at 8:40.
2 hits yesterday?
He's a good player. I mean, he's a good defensive player. He's a good defensive player.
When he rounded third on the second run that was scored, he looked like that's the fastest he'd ever run in his life. He was hauling so much ass.
I mean, for him, this is tearing the cover off the ball.
How old is he?
He's
up there now. He's getting to Jake Taylor, like, end of major league
33.
territory. Yeah, that's it?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I thought he was like 42.
He's up there. He's the 33? Same age as Jose.
He's only 33? I swear to God, I thought, like, the way they talk about, and the way I talk about him, I mean, I did say
about him like he's 38, 39.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of said that, like, I thought he was going to be, like, part of the coaching staff, like, next year or something like that. I can't believe he's only 33. Okay, I guess I was wrong. My God. Stephen Vogt going to join us at 8:40. Maybe I'll ask him about that. I think he's
like a month older than Jose Ramirez.
The Guardians lost yesterday. That's amazing. The Guardians lost yesterday. It doesn't mean that you don't pay attention to the Guardians anymore. In fact, I think that's going to be brought up in the Unwatchables coming up at around 7:20 this morning because we got. I don't know if there's teams, but there's definitely moments where I was just like, nope, not interested. And the Guardians went up against one big event yesterday, and it was all Guardians. And it wasn't that I wanted even to check in on the other one. It had zero chance against that game yesterday. And usually it's not that way. I don't care who it is, and I don't care whatever their history is. I think that the moment they make the postseason, I think a celebration in the locker room is always going to be, in the clubhouse, is always going to be warranted. It's always going to be something there. And I think it's something that should be celebrated by the fans. I think that this situation especially, I know that they were an ALCS team. I had a lot of pushback on this yesterday online by some people because I mentioned it kind of after the show. And I had a lot of pushback about it, and I was a little bit surprised. If they just make the postseason this year, I think it should be something that really should be celebrated and really should be enjoyed by the Guardians and Guardians fans. I do not put everybody in the same boat. And I think that we do that with the two other teams in this town. I don't think everybody is connected here. I think that this team is totally different from its ownership and the restrictions that they give them. And I don't want to bring that up always, but it has to be brought up here. I think that this should be celebrated once they do make the postseason this weekend.
Well,
I'm going to talk confidently about them, and I think it should be celebrated.
Yeah, I'll be jumping up and down and celebrating and all of that.
The question, I think, is really, is that enough for this Guardians team? Is making the postseason enough? Not even say they make the postseason, but somehow, you just don't take 2 or 3 against the Texas Rangers, and the Tigers end up bypassing you, and they end up winning the division. Is making the postseason enough for this team? 216-474-0092.
Well, I think that at this point, because this team, their accomplishments, we talk about comparing the teams all the time, and like the one thing we know about this team is they have such a great reputation. They are able to make the postseason. They've done it time and time again. Where when they, if and when they fall in the postseason, it's gonna be rough. Like, to do all of this, to go on this historic run, to give us all hope, to make us think that they can, do the unthinkable and make a run again with this offense and their limitations and everything. Like, yeah, if they did all of this and then got matched up with Detroit and then fell, like, we'd be demoralized. I
don't think I would.
I'd be in shambles.
I don't think I would. Which is going to make me out to be a yes man and an excuse maker and turn me into Ken Dolan here, even though I've been calling you Anthony Dolan. I think they are two separate things. I am not going to sit there. I will say if they just make the postseason and they end up getting beat next week and then that's it, I will have to come in here and I will have to say the next week, Paul Dolan has let this team go to waste, has let a team with talent, with a lot of potential go to waste. If you're coming back, I know the Tigers had to lose a lot for you to get back into this race. For you to do what you did in the month of September, with everything that was going against you, with the malaise that was setting in with this fan base, if you're able to do it, I don't care about the division. I care about what this team is. And that would be 2 years in a row that I would have to focus my efforts against Paul Dolan and look at him and go, what have you done to do this, to help this team? Because I can look at the other two owners in town, whether good, bad, or ugly, and we know that. What have they done to try to bring their team to prominence? They've been willing to spend the money to try to do it. They've been willing to keep people in place to try to do it, even against maybe our better judgment. Maybe our better judgment. You wanted consistency, brother? You got it. You got it, right? But when it comes to the Dolans and when it comes to the Guardians, it's like, hey, if I just make the postseason, that might not be enough, and that's going to be upsetting to a lot of people. But I look at the guys in the clubhouse and go, boy, you really had every reason to get ready for Dominican ball or Venezuelan ball or anything you're doing in the wintertime. You had every single reason to start making your postseason plans. And somehow you were able to round them up and continue to fight and get back in this race, and you make the postseason. I will make a clear difference, and I'll do it all off season long because I don't think Paul Dolan's going to do anything to really help this ball club during this wintertime. And you're honest about it, too.
I don't think
in fact, you made the joke going, oh, just watch him take away from this team if he wants to. I will make a clear difference between the ownership and the baseball team about what they've done. And because I'm defensive of the guys in the clubhouse in that case, just being on the radio, I don't know many of them at all, just being defensive of them on the radio of it, I will say that that's a hell of an accomplishment, and I think that's good enough for this Guardians team.
You wouldn't be livid if it was Detroit celebrating, maybe knocking you off in your place?
I'd be upset, yes. I was upset last year when the Yankees won at our place.
Like you don't
and
think,
I had to walk out of there with some guy trying to start fights with everybody.
You don't think the dude that surprised us yesterday, the content creator out of...
I'll take that.
We've become friends with.
Yeah,
you don't
I'm going to have to take it like a man.
Lay in because he's had to hear...
I hope Chris hears this, and I hope and if it happens, I'll take it like a man. Dead ass, I'm fine with it. Go ahead and come after me for it. I'm not supposed to say dead ass anymore. I will be a man about it, and I'll take my beating. I'll be the anti-pony and take my beating like a man. That can happen. But this team coming back from 15 and a half back from the proverbial dead needs to be recognized, and it needs to be mentioned as an accomplishment. That is enough for this Guardians team. Not necessarily for the organization, but for this team, yes. Yes, you have to separate both. You're going to be a very, very miserable fan.
I just think our mind
You're going to be like that Mike in Akron guy who called in the other day.
I wish it was that way. I just don't think our mind computes that. When
my mind's computing it just fine.
When you see another team celebrating, maybe even in your house, and running off the field, I don't think your first thought is, oh, it's a great season. Like in the wild card. I especially how we've talked about them all year and how disappointed we were all year about having an ALCS team kind of strip down and then lose, in two different instances, 10-game losing streak, 9-game losing streak. I do not think your mind will default to, yeah, it was a great season.
I'll be sad that the season lost, but I look at it last year, like I still think, don't kill me for this, but I still think say we win the division this weekend. It's great. It's a great accomplishment. But if we lose in the ALDS, and I don't know how they size up, so Owen, you know the brackets, I don't necessarily right off the top. Yeah. But say they end up losing to the Yankees in the ALDS, or say they end up losing to Toronto, who had to go all in this year. Everybody was going to get fired, and they made massive investments. Say they lose to one of those teams. I'll be more upset if it's Toronto, but it's like, hey, we've been having this conversation about the Yankees this whole time. What if they go to the World Series and they lose to the Dodgers? I'm supposed to say that's not good enough? No.
Well, no,
I'm not going to do that.
You're getting further than last year. Nobody would say that.
Okay, fair. But if I lose in the LCS again to a team that has a bigger margin, has a bigger payroll, that's part of the way that baseball goes.
Yeah, if I lose Toronto, do people even know that Toronto's a $250 million payroll?
If I go to the ALCS and lose to Toronto, which is incredible, and you're going to have to continue to say that, especially if we play them. If I go in and we lose to Toronto, I'll say it. If you lose to Seattle or somebody who has kind of sort of similar payroll, at least I think off the top of my head, you can look it up and maybe prove me wrong here. Because we do have a very low payroll.
Seattle is $60 million north of us.
Okay, that's still a significant amount.
And by the way, the Rangers, who are eliminated, right? They had a $220 million payroll.
But that's the point. My ire will be at Paul Dolan.
Which is funny because Paul Dolan would be like, we're better than Texas. Texas has spent $120 million more than us.
But I would look at it and go, you could have been so much better. You could have been better. You could have had a better chance. And my anger would be towards Paul Dolan in Major League Baseball. My anger would not be about this team. and saying that there needs to be changes. I would think that Paul Dolan is wasting this baseball team. That's what I would say. But I do believe that making the postseason, considering where they were, I think that's enough. I think that's enough. I'm setting myself up to probably be very mad at ownership. I'm not going to be mad about the players on the field.
I think again, 98% of MLB team fans are mad at owners. That's like the easy thing now. Like even Detroit, they're mad at ownership.
So I'm supposed to be mad at the players on the field?
I just don't think it matters.
Because you're telling me I need to be mad if they lose. So who do I get mad at?
It's a beautiful place for baseball to be that all the fans can just yell at their owners. But what does it matter? We have great turnouts all week. Like nobody is thinking about the owners today or tomorrow. It's just the minute the season ends, we go after the ownership. But what does it matter? Like none of the owners are selling their teams, right? The ones that haven't already. Like they're not selling their teams immediately because the fans are mad.
Well, it does matter. It does matter because you lose
what does that matter? Like the Dolans aren't changing their way of business, and you're not changing your behavior
because there's going to be.
Are you going to less games next year?
How annoyed?
Not supporting the team?
No, obviously I'm going to go to games. And I'm going to support the team.
It's set up for us all to go. Darn it! I don't like the owner.
But no, let me tell you what it's more about. You were disgusted by that call from that Mike and Akron guy earlier this week. That multiplies.
Yeah,
that multiplies.
Of course it is.
So then you're just more disgusted. So in the long run, you should be very upset, but you should be very upset with ownership.
But that's what I mean. Always goes
you shouldn't just say, "Well, that's baseball. He's part of baseball. He's part of the ownership."
I know, but it really is. It's set up beautifully for baseball for us all to just complain about our owners and then go back to work and go back to going and supporting the team the following year.
I guess I should enjoy this run and say that if they make the postseason, considering where they were just a month ago, that would be satisfactory to me and a hell of a run. And I look at the pitching staff, I feel a lot differently about this pitching staff than I did 2 months ago.
I just think it's something you say today, and then come talk to me in a week. I think you'll be a very different Ken Carman.
Record it all. Record every single syllable of it. I will stand firm on that. Is it enough for the Guardians to just make the postseason? It's like you and I have done the flippy flop. I was calling you Anthony Dolan earlier this year, and now it seems that I'm Paul's big brother.
Now I'm the Dolan.
Now I'm the Dolan. Even though I am setting myself up to be very angry at Paul Dolan. And like the next couple of weeks. He doesn't care. But I do. I care about it as much as people. You guys just want to talk about Shedeur Sanders. No, I want there to be a healthy balance of the three.
It's not like the team found their talent over the last 3 weeks. They haven't changed who they were. Their heart, they've played with more heart over the last 3 weeks. And that's not anything to do with players on rosters to me. I mean, guys stepped up when they're all major leaguers, right? Like, they all deserve to be in the big leagues, whether they're an everyday guy or not an everyday guy. They've definitely become a more live for the moment team than a look at the big picture team.
Well, you used to, and they do it every year. And I'm going to get to the phones here in just a second.
Well, you kind of have to. That's the type of player that they go after, they build through their farm system.
It's
they aren't bringing in guys to help you out at all.
It's the joke that the Dairy brothers have made, where you start with an early Clement, and he's a bad example now, but at the time you're like, who's this guy? What is this? Because your opening day roster is always way different than what you're going to have in September, whether it be injury or just young guys not ready to come up yet, and you have these journeymen. Like your opening day roster is always weird.
Well, and they also don't have the same pressure. They're not the Yankees and Dodgers who have to have a World Series contender on day one of the season.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like they're not quizzed on that all off season and talked about. Like it's obviously a very different state of affairs. I will say what's changed. Like obviously their pitching has grown into what the higher end of expectations for almost each and every guy. That's been there. The bullpen, they now have their 7, 8, 9 figured out. Yes, would they rather have Clase A, or would they rather have had Cade Smith, bounced back one spot? Sure. But that didn't happen, so now Cade Smith has to be in that closer role. Maybe you don't feel as confident, right. But we've gotten to the point where we do feel some level of confidence, right? And so you've got your dominant starting pitching, you've got your 7, 8, 9 figured out, and your defense is 1,000 times better than it was. I know Jose had a bit of a gaffe, didn't really come back to haunt him yesterday, but your defense
is
wait a minute.
Lights out. He had a gaffe? When did he have that gaff?
A throw. Yeah.
And who talked about how he was great after the beginning of the season? Who mentioned on the show yesterday how great he had been defensively after the gaffes he had at the beginning of the season? Who was that, Owen?
I jinxed him?
Who was that? Who shirked his responsibilities as a jinxer at the beginning of the show on something else and then has decided to do this?
So the defense has taken a huge, not just a step forward, it's been a leap, and then they've had young guys kind of come through. When you look at the batting averages, everything, none of that's impressive. That's just not going to. They are bottom 3 in almost every offensive statistical category except home runs. Home runs, I think they're more middle of the pack. But everything else, whether it's slugging, OPS, on base, all of it, it's all bottom 3. And unfortunately, that doesn't bode well for a playoff run at all. But everything else has gone to such a level that it's been a ton of fun watching these guys grow and deal with that pressure, because the Guardians had a ton of pressure over the last 3 weeks. They basically had to be almost perfect, and they were.
216-474-0092, and it's because of that I think that, just making the postseason, I think is a great accomplishment by this team. Stephen Vogt going to join us at 8:40 this morning. Matt on the road, you're first up on the Fan. Yellow.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Not terrible. Not great yet. We'll find out after your call, Matt.
I was going to say, I'm so torn on this. Like, this has been fun as heck in September, and I feel like I feel like it's like one of those things where this team is just a definition of just when you think I'm out, they bring me back in. Like, I've kind of feel like I've teed off in this organization quite a bit, but I almost kind of feel like, unfortunately, if we don't make the playoffs, or if we don't, if we like flame out the wild card or the ALDS, it will, I feel like, end up being a reflection of ownership and front office and everything that did or did not happen in this offseason. Like, I just feel like you can't look at it and be like, we were literally 3 games away from making the World Series, and you cut payroll, you have all the mess with Clase and Ortiz, which isn't 100%. That's not the Dolans' fault, but
it's 0% their fault.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think most of the fan base is going to be like, look, you had a team that was in the ALDS. They were competitive with the Yankees. They probably should have won 2 or 3, or at least two of those games, and you end up just basically, not doing anything that last off season, not doing anything as a deadline. If anything, cutting people, cutting payroll, and I feel like there's going to be no accountability as usual on the Dolans. No one's going to be like, hey, well, and they're going to look at it like, well, we were so many games under 500. We had this big run, and we snuck into the wild card, and we're posting on social media, hey. Playoff tickets go on sale before we even clinch, which that's probably a standard thing. But
Matt, can I ask you one more thing? What's your favorite sport?
Football, hockey, actually too. I know I'm one of those weird guys that's actually more hockey than football, but yeah.
I'll tell you why I got to let you go, but I'll tell you why I asked you that at the end of the segment. Thank you very much for the call, Joe in Youngstown. You're next up on the Fan.
Hey, how you doing this morning?
Doing well, Joe. Go right on ahead.
Yeah, so, I'm a diehard Cleveland sports fan, right? Mm-hmm. And for me, the Guardians being there every year, having a chance to make the playoffs, I'm very appreciative for. I personally feel like the playoffs is good enough for me this year, right? Yeah, am I mad that we took from last year's team? Absolutely. But, only 22 teams since 1975 have gone to back-to-back LCSs. So, and then, as a diehard Cleveland Browns fan, I crave the playoffs. And I put that pressure on the Guardians because they have a really good chance every year. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that makes me more upset when the Dolans don't spend money, right? But yeah, I'm good. I appreciate
that's a hell of a thought. That's a hell of a. Real quick, what's your favorite sport?
I'm 50-50 baseball and football, right down the middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's a hell of a thought you just said about the Browns right there, Joe. Thank you very much for your call. Jason on the road. You're next up on the Fan.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hi, Jason.
Tony, you said something about what's it going to change with the Dolans not spending? That affected how many games I went to this year. Last year I went to about 30. This year only about 20, and mainly it was because it's the owners don't care, don't want to invest in their time and money. Why should I? But So, yeah, I kind of got to disagree with you on that one. But, yeah, definitely been excited. Hopefully we can get this thing so we can go to, more games this year.
You go to a lot of baseball games. Well, you go to a lot of baseball games, Jason. What is baseball your favorite?
No.
What's your favorite?
Wrestling. The real stuff.
Wrestling?
Yep.
Okay, of the 3 big sports in Cleveland, what's your favorite? Is it football?
It is football.
Okay. That's interesting, the wrestling. You and Owen need to get together. Lima, do you have anything to say to Jason before I let Jason go?
Their attendance is down like 1,500 a game
Still
from
got
last
over 2
year.
million, though.
But now, obviously, they're probably going to get close to selling out this weekend, so they'll probably get right back to where they were last year. But, they were disappointing this year for big stretches, so that cost them. I think that cost them with some big weekends. Or I should say weekdays. That probably cost them more during the week.
Yeah,
Owen,
a lot of weekdays, yeah. Even though they were selling 15 to 20, but still.
Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, a lot of that's because, like I said, it's just that malaise that you felt like, yeah, the owners got cheap on us. It's just like, why do I want to go watch a team that's kind of like
Jason, out of the games,
throw the team in.
Out of the games that you went to, did you go to weekday games or were they weekend games?
Both. Went to both. Like
50,
I went to the 2 games on Tuesday and Wednesday this week.
Okay. It feels like it's
Jason, thank you.
The people that are really dieharded are the ones that are in there on the weekdays. The weekend crowd's a much different crowd. The feel of the ballpark is a much different feel.
You're right.
It's the only sport where you can truly say that, right? Because the NBA does play weeknight games, but it's not the same because you only get so many. It's half the amount of games, and maybe it's the only time that this superstar from the West Coast comes to Cleveland. So that'll change your crowd and the anticipation there. But
I am curious if you play this out and they make the playoffs, we go nuts, they celebrate, and let's say they either win or lose in the wild card, or then win or lose, they don't get to the ALCS. Okay, and play this out. Going into next year, do you think their attendance would go backwards? Because I actually think next year it'll go up because of the young guys, and then
I'm not going
a number 1 overall pick that's going to be playing next year at some point.
The problem with it right now is we all know what the spending's going to be this offseason. Mm-hmm. If you don't know what the spending's going to be, you haven't paid attention to Major League Baseball. They are not going to spend this offseason.
Well, no teams are going to spend.
Nobody's going to spend money this offseason
because of an impending work stoppage.
So you're right. At least maybe we'll get the Bazana push.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get. Maybe they play and Valera takes this opportunity with David Fry down and he becomes a guy that you're really interested in seeing at the beginning of next season. Kafis becomes more
about Chase DeLauder.
Right. DeLauder comes up. All these things could happen, but that's as good as it's going to get for the Guardians this offseason.
Well, and if anything, if they spent money, this would be the one time I'd be like, well, where would you spend money? Because you'd be blocking some of these young guys.
That would be a hell of a point there. The reason I asked these guys this, I didn't mean to be too deep on it, but I wanted to ask them because I got 3 guys right off the tip. 216-474-0092. 2 out of 3 said football was basically their number 1. Okay? Joe in Youngstown said 50-50. But Joe also mentioned the Browns being a diehard fan about how he can't root for them to really go to the postseason, so he has to throw it into the postseason with the Guardians. You see, there's 2 things here. 1, why people will be so upset. Why you'll end up being right and I'll end up being wrong is 1, there's definitely a lot of football. This is Northeast Ohio, for crying out loud. I don't think that this is an indictment whatsoever. The Pro Football Hall of Fame's right down the street. But most people are football first. I would say 7 to 10 fans in Northeast Ohio are football first. They're football first fans. They can be as mad as they want to about the Browns, but they're football people. You have probably jump back into the Guardians after they started. It's something to do. You've jumped back into the Guardians because you thought you left them for dead. To the point where maybe I feel a little guilty, by the way, if I felt that way. But either way, they've brought you along. Now your emotions are there. And now if they don't make the postseason or they just go to the postseason and that's it, they go to the wild card, you almost feel like you've wasted your time and your emotions with that. The second thing is when Joe in Youngstown brings up the Browns, there's a faith, and this is what I think really bothers people about Paul Dolan. There is a faith that he is a responsible owner. I mean, the other 2 owners, when you have basketball, you get yourself a bona fide star, and unless that guy turns into Kawhi Leonard and it's not that way with Donovan Mitchell, you should be a pretty competitive ball club. Donovan Mitchell's a hell of a player. He's a hell of a leader. You're a really competitive basketball team. But you have two owners who are willing to spend into oblivion. You can call them a lot of things. They ain't cheap. And you got one team that's willing to spend into Neptune, and they make wrong decision after wrong decision. And they happen to play the sport that everybody loves here. And so you take your frustration out on the responsible owner, the one that does run a good business, the one that does run a good front office and does run a good organization, but's not willing to make those, to us, is not willing to make those investments to go forward. And that's the most frustrating thing. It's twofold with the fan base. It's twofold. So you have two major things that are going to make people incensed at the end of the year because of that.
True. I do think we're kind of conned into believing just spending money is the way out of every problem.
Absolutely.
And I also think it's why the Guardians, by virtue of all their constraints, they have to do every little thing better. And the other teams just don't have to.
Absolutely. But I think when you look at it and you see the Mets that are falling apart in so many ways, and they have spent $300 million.
I said the Rangers.
And you said the Rangers that have spent how many? $200+ million? $250 million, and they're eliminated and coming to town today. We don't pay as much attention to them as we do. The Dodgers go out and buy whoever they want. And the Yankees just go out and buy whoever they want. And the Yankees, everybody hates the Yankees. Very few people pay attention to Texas and Toronto and a couple of other teams. They pay very close attention to the Dodgers and the Yankees, especially the Yankees. And that was the whole argument yesterday. It's like, hey, if you didn't have Aaron Judge, who was homegrown, whatever, you just go out and buy two other guys. You would just go do that. And people get mad about that because it's always a haves and have-nots. And if I just had a little bit more with my responsibility, our owner's better than Steve Cohen, we would do so much better. And that's why people get so upset.